You spent years in school learning the parts of a cell, the dates of wars, and how to find the value of X. And in all those years, almost nobody sat you down and explained the one subject that would quietly run every single day of your adult life. Money. So you were left to figure it out on your own. From ads. From broke friends. From habits you absorbed before you were old enough to question them. Here's the question worth sitting with. How are you supposed to win a game when nobody ever taught you the rules? Today, I'm going to teach you the rules. Not tricks, not hacks. The handful of basic money concepts that everything else is built on. Get these, and you'll understand more about money than most adults ever will. Miss them, and you'll spend your life confused about why the numbers never seem to work. Let's fix that. Starting with the most basic question of all. What is money, actually? Because most people never stop to ask. They think money is the goal. It isn't. Money is stored life. Think about what a paycheck really is. You took hours you'll never get back, mornings, afternoons, energy, attention, and you traded them for numbers in an account. That money is your time, frozen, your effort, converted into a form you can hold and spend later. Once you see money this way, everything changes. Because now, when something costs $50, it doesn't cost $50. It costs however long you had to work to earn $50. A person who takes home $20 an hour isn't spending $50 on that gadget. They're spending 2.5 hours of their life. Money was never the point. The life inside it was the point. And that reframe is the foundation everything else stands on. But here's the first hard truth about that stored life. If you just hold on to it, it rots. That's the second concept, and it's the one that quietly robs people who think they're being safe. It's called inflation. Inflation means that over time, the same dollar buys less and less. The candy bar that cost a quarter decades ago now costs $2. The car, the house, the groceries, all of it drifts upward, year after year, at an average of somewhere around 3% a year over the long run. That sounds small. It is not small. At 3% inflation, prices roughly double about every 24 years. Which means the money sitting perfectly still in a checking account isn't holding its value. It's slowly melting, like an ice cube left on the counter. You look at the number, and it says the same thing it said last year. But that number can buy less than it used to. Doing nothing with your money is not the safe choice everyone thinks it is. Doing nothing is a slow, guaranteed loss. And that fact forces the next question. If holding money makes it shrink, what makes it grow? Which brings us to the concept that Albert Einstein supposedly called the eighth wonder of the world. Compound interest. Here's the simplest way to understand it. Normal growth is when your money earns money. Compound growth is when your money's money starts earning money too. It's a snowball rolling downhill. At first it's tiny, and it feels like nothing is happening. But each roll adds a little more surface, which grabs a little more snow, which adds a little more surface. The growth feeds the growth. Let me make it real, because this is the concept that surprises everyone. Imagine you could take a single penny and double it every day for 30 days. Not add a penny. Double it. Day 1, 1 cent. Day 2, 2 cents. Day 5, you're at 16 cents. Pathetic. Barely anything. Day 10, you're at about $5. Still nothing to write home about. But by day 20, that penny has become over $5,000. And by day 30, that single penny has grown to more than $5 million. From 1 cent. That's compounding. The early days look hopeless. The later days look impossible. And almost everyone quits during the hopeless part, right before the impossible part begins. Now, you won't find anything that doubles your money daily. But over years, invested steadily, the stock market has historically returned around 10% a year on average. And at that rate, your money roughly doubles about every 7 years, whether you lift a finger or not. The lesson buried in all of this is brutal and beautiful at the same time. Time is the most powerful ingredient in building wealth, not the amount you start with. Time, the person who starts small at 25 will usually crush the person who starts big at 45, purely because they gave the snowball more hill to roll down. But compound interest only helps you if your money is sitting in the right place. Which raises the most important distinction in all of personal finance. The difference between an asset and a liability. This one sentence, understood deeply, separates the people who build wealth from the people who never do. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out. That's it. That's the whole idea. But watch how many people get it exactly backwards. They think their brand new financed car is an asset. It isn't. It drinks gas, demands insurance, needs repairs, and loses value every single day. It pulls money out of your pocket constantly. That's a liability wearing a shiny disguise. A real asset is different. It's the investment that pays you dividends. The rental property that collects rent. The index fund quietly compounding in the background. The skill that raises your income. Assets feed you. Liabilities eat you. And here's the quiet secret of wealthy people that nobody puts on a billboard. They spend their lives buying assets first and letting those assets pay for their liabilities later. The average person does the opposite. They buy liabilities directly with their paycheck, then wonder why the paycheck never stretches. Rich people buy the income-producing thing and let it buy them the fun stuff. Broke people just buy the fun stuff. Same money. Completely different order of operations. But there's a tool that can supercharge either direction assets or liabilities, and it's the most misunderstood force in money. Debt. Most people think debt is simply bad. It's not that simple. There's good debt and bad debt, and confusing the two costs people dearly in both directions. Bad debt is debt you take on to buy liabilities, things that lose value or produce nothing. The credit card balance for clothes you've already forgotten. The finance gadget. Bad debt usually comes with brutal interest rates, north of 20% on many credit cards, and every month you carry it, it quietly bleeds your future to pay for your past. Good debt is different. Good debt is borrowing to acquire an asset that earns more than the debt costs, a reasonable loan on a rental property that pays for itself. A mortgage at a low rate while your money grows faster elsewhere. Wealthy people use good debt like a lever, a way to control more than their own cash could reach, letting other people's money help build their assets. The test is simple. Ask one question before you borrow. Is this debt buying me something that will pay me back, or something that will only take? Buying an asset, it might be a tool. Buying a liability, it's usually a trap. Most financial pain in modern life comes from using debt, the lever meant for building, to buy liabilities that will never build anything. Okay, so you understand what money is, that it rots if idle, that it grows if compounded, that assets feed you, and liabilities eat you. And that debt can go either way. But how do you actually keep score? How do you know if you're winning? With the one number that matters more than your salary. Your net worth. Here's how it works, and it's beautifully simple. Add up everything you own that has value: your savings, your investments, your property. That's your assets. Then subtract everything you owe: your loans, your credit card balances, your debts. That's your liabilities. What's left is your net worth. It's the truest scoreboard in personal finance, and it exposes a lie people tell themselves constantly. Because income is not wealth. A person earning $500,000 a year who spends $510,000 is going backwards, no matter how rich they look. And a teacher earning a modest salary who quietly owns a paid-off house and a healthy investment account may have a far higher net worth than the flashy neighbor drowning in financed everything. This is why the car in the driveway tells you almost nothing about wealth. The car is visible. Net worth is invisible. Stop measuring yourself and others by income, which is just how fast money flows in. Start measuring by net worth, which is how much you've actually kept and built. Because the goal was never to make a lot of money. The goal was to keep and grow a lot of money. Those are completely different games. Now, understanding the scoreboard leads to the concept that governs every single financial decision you'll ever make, whether you know it or not. Opportunity cost. Here's the idea. Every time you use $1 for one thing, you give up whatever else that dollar could have done. The cost of a choice isn't just its price tag. It's everything you could have done with that money instead. Spend $1,000 on something today, and the real cost isn't just $1,000. It's what that $1,000 could have become if you'd invested it instead, potentially several $1,000s, 20 or 30 years down the road, thanks to compounding. This doesn't mean you should never spend money or enjoy your life. That would be a miserable existence, and it misses the point entirely. It means you should spend consciously, understanding the true trade-off. Every dollar is a tiny fork in the road. One path is the thing in front of you right now. The other path is your future self, richer and freer. Neither choice is automatically right. but you should at least know you're choosing. Most people spend their entire lives making this trade without ever noticing they were trading at all. And that leads to the final concept, the one that protects everything else you've just learned. Margin of safety. Because here's the thing about life. It punches you in the face on a schedule nobody gets to see. The car breaks. The job disappears. The medical bill arrives on the worst possible week. And the people who get financially destroyed by these events usually aren't destroyed by the event itself. They're destroyed by having zero buffer when it hit. A margin of safety is the cushion between you and disaster. In practical terms, it usually starts as an emergency fund, a pile of cash, ideally 3 to 6 months of expenses. That exists for one job, to catch you when life goes wrong. It feels boring. It feels like money doing nothing. But that boring cushion is what lets you make calm decisions instead of desperate ones. The person with no buffer when the emergency hits reaches for the high-interest credit card, the payday loan, the retirement account with the brutal early withdrawal penalty. Every one of those panic moves quietly wrecks the future. The person with a buffer just handles it, pays the bill, moves on. Same emergency. 2 completely different lives, decided entirely by whether a cushion existed before the crisis arrived. Wealth isn't just about growing money. It's about surviving long enough for the growth to matter. So let's tie the whole chain together, because these concepts were never separate, they build on each other. Money is stored life. Left alone, inflation slowly eats it. But compounded over time, it grows into something enormous. To make that happen, you buy assets that feed you, instead of liabilities that drain you. You use debt as a careful tool, not a careless habit. You track your progress by net worth, the honest scoreboard, not by income, the flashy illusion. You weigh every dollar by its opportunity cost. And you protect the entire structure with a margin of safety. So one bad day can't erase years of good ones. Here's what I want you to do with all of this. Today, before the motivation fades. Just calculate your net worth. That's it. Add up what you own, subtract what you owe, and write down the real number. Don't judge it. Whatever it is, positive, negative, embarrassing, fine, it's just your starting line. Because you can't improve a number you refuse to look at. And the simple act of knowing it puts you ahead of most people, who spend their whole lives avoiding that one honest calculation. None of this was ever taught to you. And that's not your fault. But learning it now is entirely your choice. Money is just stored life. And understanding these few simple concepts is how you finally stop trading your life away for so much less than it's actually worth.